From the arena to the front office, this is Scoreboard. I'm Chris Titley, and each episode brings you stories from the game of sport, where mindset, money, and meaning shape what comes next. Athletes, coaches, owners, and business leaders unpack the moments that matter, because the Scoreboard isn't just about winning, it's about life beyond the game. Now let's get to this week's episode.
Hi, it's Chris Titley here, and on today's episode of Scoreboard, the podcast, I'm joined by Jess Borg. Jess, thank you so much for being part of this series.
No, thank you for having me. I'm super keen to come on and have a chat.
Jess, we're sitting here on the 2nd of May, Friday the 2nd of May. Beautiful day here in Brisbane. What have you been up to this week, and also how's your year started?
Well, yeah, it is a good day. Finally some good weather
Yes.
to keep us on track. No, this week's been an elite week of sport and personal life. Participating in the Para Gen 32 program, so I had the awesome opportunity to join the 9 other coaches on that program this week in the sunny coast to just chat all things parasport, look at the future of parasport, and having the chance to just have a conversation with current and past athletes. So that was an awesome way to start the week, to be honest with you, in terms of getting excited about something.
Yeah.
And 25 has been a year of unknown and new territory for me. So it's been exciting, scary, very nerve-wracking is probably the best way to put it. After retiring in December from competing in sport, you kind of always look around and go, what do I do now? Even when you have some steps in place. So it's been an adjustment period, but some super exciting stuff has come up for me to be a part of. Professional opportunities outside of sport, being admitted as a legal into the legal profession, coaching at a new club that my coach who coached me in Taekwondo established. So that's really cool, getting to work with some para athletes and our up and coming high performance Taekwondo athletes as well. The list could go on, but it's been such a
sounds busy, but also stressful and exciting and nerve-wracking. All the emotions as you've alluded to.
Yeah.
Jess, I want to talk about your Taekwondo career. Where did that, or how did that come about? And I suppose the late sort of pivot into other sports as well. But let's just focus on Taekwondo for the time being. When did you first become interested in that?
Yeah, so I started Taekwondo when I was 6 years old. 2006, in Bundaberg, so the Wide Bay. And I started because I was diagnosed with low muscle tone disorder, which effectively means it's pretty common amongst young kids, but being a small town wasn't super, normal. So what that meant was, when you rule a line in your book, like a margin, you put your ruler down, you bring your pen across. So you had 2 hands working together, cognitively and physically. I couldn't do that. Put one down to hold the ruler and try to bring the pen across, and this one would go walkabout. So, simple tasks like that, or writing, all those sorts of things I just couldn't do, for someone my age who should have been able to start, developing some skill there. So everyone was quite concerned. So, doctors and testing and all that process, come up with this diagnosis, and effectively the suggestion was some sort of martial arts, or something swimming based. And I grew up in Bundy by the ocean. We were doing surf lifesaving. Swimming was just something, a part of the culture and the township. So we were doing that already, and obviously that wasn't doing the job. And we knew the Taekwondo gym owner. And he goes, bring it to me, we'll fix it. So it kind of started off there, very, very young. And it wasn't a passion in the first instance. And I was reminded often that you are no good at this. But it was kind of a place of belonging. And then, meeting new people completely out of your comfort zone, learning a new language all at the same time. learning how to kick someone while they kick you, like genuinely overwhelming. And then the first taste of kind of, oh, this is cool, would have been like competition within the same year or maybe even 12 months later, in Bundy, local comp. People came all around the state to us, and I had this girl, same age, same weight, same experience, and all I did was yell. I just went, ah! And this like little rage came out of this small child, and the other girl went, yeah, this is not for me, and stormed off crying. And I was like, I didn't have to do anything, and I won. I'm good at this.
A little bit of built up tension maybe as a child.
A bit of frustration just all
Yeah.
came out at once. But after that, mum and dad were like, oh, there's something here. There's a bit of confidence coming out. This is exciting. So they were just keen to see me wanting to be involved in something else. And it, may not be super great at it, but skills are developing, confidence is developing. And then after that, it was like an addiction. Just wanted more, and mum and dad wanted more because they saw I was, improving.
Yep.
So that's where it all kind of started.
And do you remember your first sort of fight, I suppose, or competitive fight as a youngster?
Yeah, the first few I kind of remember. I developed a bit of a name for myself very young, of being, that aggressive Maltese kid.
The kid that screams at you when they introduce everyone?
Yeah. So at the beginning of the fight, I had this, kind of iconic, they call it a ki-up, which means yell in Korean. So that was kind of known for that, and girls didn't often do that, so it was quite intimidating from a young age. And I remember there was this girl I came out against in my very first year from Brisbane, and we fought for like the next till we were 11, 12, and I fought her in my first year, and she beat me every time. I couldn't get around her, no matter how hard I tried. I remember her name, remember her face, but when I first started, there was no technique. It was a matter of just lifting those legs and hoping that there was contact. But it was just fun. Like, it was exciting. I remember just getting so nervous, but going out and having the best time, win, lose or draw. There would be tears afterwards, and it'd be a long drive home if I lost, but I still was like, come on, when's the next? And but as a young kid, I did struggle to get a few fights because people were a little bit intimidated, which was a pain.
Yeah, I'd imagine as a parent now, if I saw an opponent coming up against and screaming for you, whoa, no, I'm out.
Yeah, mum used to be that parent.
I'm curious to know what the addiction, you used that word there, like what was it about the sport that made you so addicted to come back for more, win, lose or draw, as you said?
Yeah, I would say, and can confidently say, it was because I was good at it, and I think I was recognizing that I was good at it, where before I was only 6, 7 around these years, but you're smart enough then to realize when you're challenged by things and not. And I feel like academically I wasn't the most intelligent, and I had to work really, really hard, harder than a lot of others. So that was infuriating. Whereas coming into Taekwondo, I was developing these skills, getting really good at it, and that was exciting. And going out there and having this cool adrenaline rush, and you're doing these things that not many other people could do, and I was like, yeah, this is something really cool. And
it's almost like a secret hobby that it's an outlet for you.
Yeah, 100%.
To be comfortable, and it's you're like, I could do this all day, but I really don't have too much time for maths homework. But
that's right.
But it's your like your happy outlet.
Yeah, that's right. It was a place that I felt super confident, whereas maybe putting in a school environment or a friendship environment wasn't as much. Like, I played soccer till up until the last couple of years, and I loved it. It was so much fun, but it wasn't like, I was still pretty shy and reserved in that space, whereas Taekwondo, I could be this kid that potentially
Yep.
wouldn't.
You're still a kid, by the way. But talking about your career in Taekwondo, then from your youth and moving up and becoming good at it, and
Yeah.
realizing that you're good at it and enjoying it, and the sort of the compound flywheel effect of that. Do you want to talk about your career and how that lasted, up until pretty much 2020, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I dedicated everything to Taekwondo. I think, I moved from Bundy in 2017 to Brisbane to study, and at the same time, get in on a sports scholarship, so I had heaps more time to train basically at uni. And I, at 16 started going overseas, like during high school, started going overseas in 2016, spending long periods of time in Korea and training, and then just developing, national teams. Went and competed or started the process to compete for Malta as well at the same time. Come back and realize that, my passion was with Australia, and again continued to compete internationally, get my rankings up in the world in Australia, Universiades, and all those competitions. So I was competing at a very high level consistently. And then come to 2020 where, I thought it was between myself and someone else. And I was like, this is my chance. This is my, opportunity to reach that goal that I always had. I was 20 years old, very young, loved the sport, obsessed, and, that was it. Could taste it. COVID hit. We got delayed a year, which meant the selection process looked a bit differently. Normally, you're on tour and you build up your ranking points in the lead up to try and be the highest you could be out of everyone in your country in that division, and to be selected. But it didn't occur that way. So, kind of just went on whatever results we had up to that point. But, the other girl had beaten me once before, and I'd beaten her more recent to the Olympics. In that same fight, I did break my foot, which in turn meant that there were, it was, she went over me, which was quite disappointing. That's a hard realization to sit with, that, you just wish you had that one more shot to prove that you were the right person, for the job. But at the same time, she also equally, had the same background as me, and, we went to all the same competitions. So the decision was made. And then for that 2021 during the Olympics, I also spent that whole 21 weeks or something like that in a moon boot as well from the last fight that we had, which was frustrating and kind of it deteriorated my passion for the sport, is probably the best way to put it. But up until that point, I, was doing well overseas. I had a really strong background in competitions in Taekwondo. And then at that point it was my pinnacle turning point in the sport.
And when I mention Taekwondo now, or you hear the words Taekwondo, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about those words? 20 years of your life.
Oh, that's a good question. It's been a process, and it feels like a bit of a breakup that I've had. And I get asked this often. When I hear the word Taekwondo, I kind of hear the yeah, it feels like an X. Like I'm still bitter, but I get it. Had some good times, but I've had to move on from it and see that it's just a sport, and it's okay. That
Yep.
it's always going to be there, and I can come back to it, and like I have over the last few months. You can always come back to it, but I needed a break from hearing about it, talking about it, being around it, because it did make me angry and upset. And but now I still have passion for it. I still do really love it. And I do see, the impact it has on people that even not even people that compete um,
Yeah. And do you
internationally.
feel do you feel proud of the last 20 years then? Like, is there something
Yeah,
inside you that you go, well, even though you're bitter or have
yeah,
been bitter on it, that
yeah,
there's an element of like, I gave it my all.
yeah, 100%. I'm very proud of myself, especially coming from regional Queensland, you know, breaking that barrier, breaking that stereotype, making, traveling, making it work, and doing a degree at the same time as competing in Taekwondo. I'm super proud of that, and don't have any regrets is also probably the main thing. Like I gave it all, and you know, only so many people can be at the top, and just being, just missing out is also a huge accomplishment.
And Jess, you did mention about studying, and in the
Mm.
back of your mind, Taekwondo, you're probably not one of the mainstream sports globally in regards to money and fame and fortune,
Yeah.
etc. How did you go about thinking about that? Going, actually, if I did make it to the highest level, could I do this forever, and can I make a living out of it, etc. Or and Plan B?
Yeah, yeah. So from the get go, my parents always said to me, like, we need a plan B, knowing that it's more of a cost output sport than, input coming in. And, so it was always, you need a plan B, you need a plan B. And then going into year 12 and, studying and working out what do I want to do in my life, I'd always answer, I'm going to be an Olympian, I'm going to be an Olympian. That was it for me. But I'm also going to be, something else. Like I'm not
Yep.
just an Olympian. So that was a big push behind it. But then when coming to pick what I actually really wanted to do, I was challenged in the fact that if I wanted to be good at this sport, but I want to study and set myself up because it's not, in the media a lot, it's not easy to make a career unless you open your own gym or something like that. Um, what can I do? Um, I also need to travel full time. I need to be able to get up and go to a camp whenever I, need be. How can I study something that doesn't interrupt that? So when it comes to selection of subjects and unis and degrees, Mum and I was sitting there and she always thought that I wanted to be a physio or a PE teacher. And I was like, no, I'm going to be a lawyer. And she was like, what? I was like, we had this massive argument about, are you sure? Like, she had her doubts, and I'd convinced myself, yeah, this is what I want to do. Even in the lead up to this, I did training or internship at a hospital in physio, and everything was designed around physio or PE teaching. And I threw the curveball in there and said, I can do it. I'm going to study law and business because this makes sense to me. And convinced myself of that, and had been convinced my whole degree. So I was able to do that with traveling and online and all that sort of,
Yep.
yeah.
And then the realization that you weren't going to be an Olympian at 2021, and not, give yourself a break from Taekwondo. What about your connection with sport? How did that, stay? And I suppose the story in and around, your connection with sport still.
Yeah, so I think after that, I kind of spiraled a little bit. And went down a dark path after that, which not many people knew, and I hit it really well, and only my coach and my partner kind of knew about it, or have been able to open up more about it. Spiraled and hated sport, didn't turn up for training. It's a weight-based sport, put so much weight on, outside my category. So I did go through that spiral, and was like, well, I'm 21. I'm going to party. Everyone else does. If I can't, do this, I'm just that's enough, kind of thing in my mind. But after a very stern talking to from my coach to essentially pull my head in, and wake up. This is not the end. You're very young. Was something that helped me realize, okay, I need to be challenged more, or, change my perspective a little bit. So I saw that the government was running these talent ID camps. And like when we went on Taekwondo camps, we'd always get tested, could you convert or transition to another sport, but nothing ever come of it. But I decided to go on this journey of let's see what happens.
Yeah, why not?
Let it happen. Yeah, it was a whole process of let it happen. Still training at the same time, Taekwondo, not really focusing on competition, just playing it all out and seeing where things go. But then, did this selection. I was the oldest person there. I felt a bit uncomfortable. Series of testing, and I got given the options of boxing, archery, and skateboarding, which I still question to this day. Skateboard and archery, I'm not confident.
Maybe it's the intricate muscles that you use in Taekwondo that people don't really know about. Those muscles, like when you do Pilates and stuff, these muscles go, wow, where did they come from? I never use these in my life. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, so had those three options and kind of was like, you know what, I'm just going to try all three of them. I was very open-minded about it, and that was the goal for the process, that whole process. But then I kind of sat back and went, you know what, boxing is the only one that makes sense to me. And,
it's probably the closest correlated too, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. I was terrified to ride forwards and backwards on a skateboard, and in archery, I didn't know much about it, but boxing kind of stood out the most, and
probably
went
a bit more movement. You're a bit of an active person, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so loved.
Not saying archers are not active, but just the bouncing around,
Correct. Yeah. I like that combat environment. I like that really delving into punching a bag and that chess match of fighting. So yeah, that was kind of when okay, sweet. Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. I don't know any Taekwondo fighters that have trained at still training at the elite level of Taekwondo and competing, but also amateur boxing with the correlating goal of Com Games, Olympics. And so I was in a fast track program then at the boxing shop with Shara, Shara Roma, the boxing Olympic coach. So she, I was in good hands. I was in safe hands. And she baby stepped me through that fast track process basically. And I thought this is the coolest thing ever. Like I love this sport. This is getting out of me everything that I want and need, and particularly at that time. And she was helping me transition. I was still competing in Taekwondo, but helped transition the mindset as you're a boxer now. Let's eat, dream, train, do everything like a boxer. Which was a really cool experience to be a part of. And, after 3 months, literally 3 months of training, I walked into my first boxing match.
Wow. Okay.
So that was super cool.
I'm not going to ask how did you feel because that'd be a boring question. My question's probably like the night before.
Yeah.
The fight. Did you get much sleep?
It felt like I was prepping for a Taekwondo fight. So it was pretty normal. Before my Taekwondo fights, I fought in my sleep, but I was well rested. Nobody else was. But yeah, I was didn't have too much no dramas really in.
Yep. And then when the bell rang, when you're, ding ding, off you go. You're switching on into your flow.
Yeah. The main thoughts in my head were, don't kick this girl. That was
right, Taekwondo, of course.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I was like, because
disqualified.
Yeah, literally. There's this moment in the fight where I must have, I don't know what. I usually when I fight, and I just switch off totally. Like I can't. My Taekwondo coach Sive used to get up me and go, "Are you listening to me?" And I'd say, "Yeah," but she knew I wasn't. I was just it's just can't hear a thing. Like I could only pick distinctly 2 voices or so in the crowd. But that was, and the referee, but nothing else, and my breathing. So in this particular fight, there was this one moment, and there's a photo of it, and I've gone to lift my leg, and I've realized, I'm like, oh my God, that's what Sive meant when she goes up the middle or something like that. And I've seen it and I've gone to act on it, and all I hear is, put that effing leg down. And that
yes,
was,
sorry.
yeah,
Yep.
I was like, oh my God, I've had to like back away really quick just to adjust myself, my stance, and my hands, because I've gone the whole, drop that front arm, gone to on
Maybe you
that
could start
lean.
a sport. You could do a combined sport. You could start the sport, right?
Yeah, kickboxing. I mean, that's what I was
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
So
Kickboxing, taekwondo,
yeah.
boxing, all three.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, yeah. So it was that was the kind of, yeah, adrenaline took over at that point. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was excited. I was nervous, had the same nerves that I would at, fighting in, Dutch Open or something in Taekwondo. So it was thrilling. Like there was the same adrenaline.
Mm.
So it
And
was,
Jess, on Scoreboard, we have had Olympians, world champions, gold medalists, etc. And it's we talk about the moment of euphoria, and then after life, what happens, etc.
yeah.
In this particular podcast, we're not talking to someone that's a gold medalist, an Olympic champion, a world champion, someone that's given their all into sport and then had a setback after setback. And I'll prelude into this story about why you're not boxing anymore. But
Yeah.
this is a very interesting story. Someone's given their life to sport, and then we'll get on to the fun part about what you're doing now.
Yeah, so coming from, Taekwondo, combat background, going into amateur boxing. In amateur boxing, a lot of people don't know this, but you start off as a novice and then you work into an elite. So 0 to 10 fights is novice, 10 plus is elite. You can fight anyone you want. But in that first instance, when you are a novice, you fight people in categories. So it's novice 0 to 2, and they are people who've had 0 to 2 fights in your weight category. So obviously, to get to where everybody wanted, QAS, Combat Australia, the boxing shop, where everyone wanted me to be quickly, I needed to enter every single competition to get these fights up, basically. And so with that in mind, I was entering every competition, but just could not get fights. And we were like, what is going on? Or girls, the first time we kind of clicked as to what's going on is the day before weigh-in for this Brizzy comp, the girl pulled out. And we were like, what? I was so angry because I'd cut weight. I've done it all properly and in the elite way, that I know. And I get a call from a coach and she's like, I'm sorry, Jess, she's pulled out. And I was like, did she get injured? Like, is there someone else? And she said, they found out your background and now they won't fight you. And so it became this just constant thing of, you're already a professional or elite Taekwondo fighter. You should be an elite boxer, but they're two different sports.
Yeah, and two different
So
rules, obviously.
different
So
rules, yeah, two
yeah,
different
so that's
rules,
what you kept on saying. It's a different sport. So it's
Yeah,
sort
so
of
yeah, we've had
it's
to.
frustrating for you.
It's
Mm.
infuriating, and you're kind of going wherever you can get a fight. You just have to find, whether you're fighting 57 and the girl's 62. You're gonna have to fight. Like that's the mindset I took. And it was always safe and all that sort of thing. But that's what I just had to do. And it got to a point where you're just like, I'm sick of getting punched in the head by someone that weight category bigger. And I mean, you
Bigger,
should.
yeah, physically bigger and stronger. Yeah,
Well, you should, and we talked about it a lot, but I just had to suck it up. It was safe. It was fine. It was all sanctioned. It was, all good. But it was frustrating. And I think then I got into my head, and then I got a couple of concussions. But prior to this, even in Taekwondo, I was having trouble with my hearing. And, we didn't have a really strong concussion protocol in Taekwondo when I was competing. And I'd had huge hits, knocked out. And, I'd wake up on the mats. And if I could stand, I'd fight. So it just all added up, and it got to a point where everything at the same time kind of clicked for me. My hearing would just it'd switch off. I feel like I'm in the dark for a moment. And then I was getting frustrated because I couldn't have fights and had these concussions, and it all kind of went, this is not good for me. Long term, this is not what I need. And so I had my last fight in August last year, and I kept training at the QAS with everyone having the hopes of she's going to come back. And my hearing was still not changing. My passion was still not developed. It was not developing at all. So I went, you know what, for my mental health, for my physical health, I'm 24 at the time. There's no need to continue on with this. And there are bigger and better things out there. So that was a huge decision to make.
Yeah, particularly with I suppose the people that went, oh well, there's a vested interest of QAS and all these people around you going, come on,
Yeah,
and it's up to you. You might always feel a little bit of like, oh, I'm letting these people down, but at the
100%.
same point in time, you're one punch away from probably death, right?
Yeah, well, even not even death, just like detrimenting my future,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and also just my mental happiness.
yes.
Was, and when you start, I was crying after every training session, or as soon as I'd get in the ring, I did not want to get hit. I was like, you know what?
Yeah, if you're in boxing and you don't want to get hit, that's probably not a great way to start.
Exactly. I was just like, this is not it for me. And you go. I had those thoughts. I was like, oh my god, I've let my mum and dad down. Like they've paid 20 something years of sport for me. This is unfair
Mm.
to them. I haven't given them a result. My partner's dedicated time and put up with my cut weight with me. That's not fair on her. All the coaches have put money, and the QAS put money into me. Like, you know, this is not cool. I'm just quitting. That was the questions I was trying to answer. But then, sitting down with my boxing coach and my mum and my dad and my partner, and we all kind of had a different conversation with everyone. And it was just like, it's time. It's okay kind of thing.
Isn't that really amazing that your support network was there, through and to support your decision,
But yeah,
because they've been there from. I mean, I wouldn't say amazing, but it's sort of it's wonderful that they were there,
yeah, yeah,
and for you to be able to go. Actually, I may have let you down financially, and there's money down the toilet, and the travel and
yeah,
time and etc. But hey, I'm in a happier spot. I'm in a better
yeah,
spot, and let's go forward.
yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone knew that for me I set myself up for life after. So I would be okay, and that they would just reassure me that. And I think was the biggest importance. And they gave me time to sit in my emotions and sit in, what I needed to do. And then when they were like, okay, let's start to act. Let's try and be yourself. Let's go for a run. Let's, enter into something. Like in the mix of it, I knew the QAS time and support was ending very shortly, and I went. My SNC coach was one of the biggest lean-ons that I had. T from the QAS, she was the best. She said, "Let's set a goal. Why don't you do a high rocks or just do a half marathon or something?" Because I'd been in that type of energy-based sport. I could transfer those skills. And she's like, let's just set a physical goal. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I started just buying into these events to try and just keep having something to train for and have that, turnover and, keep that body going.
Consistency around
Yeah,
being active and movement. Yeah.
correct. Because I think that, that was the thing I genuinely enjoyed the most. So why
Mm.
stop? I complained a heap at training, but it was my favorite part of the process. Well, athlete doesn't complain at training, but I loved pushing my body to that limit. So she was just like, let's keep doing it. Like, keep
Yeah.
pushing your body beyond its barriers. That's what you like doing. Here's how we can keep going. And I think having that was the biggest help in
Yeah.
transitioning out.
And speaking of transition and what's coming next, here's the
Yeah.
pun. Let's talk about next.
Yeah, so after experiencing everything I experienced, and once, as much as the system helps you when you're in it, once it's time to retire, their focus, rightfully so, is on the next gen or the next people coming through. So you're left, after dedicating all your time and life to the sport, you're left going, what do I do? It's an identity crisis, and you kind of go, I'm no longer just the athlete. Who am I? What? And so after going through that, although having my degree and a job and, the things that, making sure I worked during working my training around work to have money to when I finished, a lot of athletes don't have that, and they don't have that ability. They are training the whole day, 3 or 4 sessions a day, and when it does come time to either by force or choice to finish up in sport, you're one left at the end going, how do I how do I save? Where should I best put my savings? How do I write a resume and try and transfer the skills I have as an athlete into business when I have no business experience or anything like that? And that's why I've established NEEXT. So NEEXT is a platform that we're building to include, guidance on resumes and what transferable skills are as an athlete, legal assistance in, okay, I want to rent. I need some advice about this rental contract or,
all these regular things that you've spent a lot of time dedicating to sport,
100%.
and you're like,
Yeah,
most people are
like
going,
things like
I don't know if I should sign this. I need someone to sort of run it by.
An employment contract and having and linking you up directly to people that can help you, but at the same time providing advice. Not really advice, but points to run you through. And so same along with finance as well. A broker, even a property agent who can help you work out, okay, I've got this money savings, but I want to invest in property or I want to buy my first home. What do I do? Because you are sheltered away from that sort of stuff a lot of the time. And it's when it comes time to you kind of go, oh my goodness, what, I don't even know where to start, or you get charged copious amounts because, people think you're an athlete or, so limit that, that situation. So it's a platform to connect athlete and expert, and you can subscribe to and get the best value that you need out of it.
Awesome. That's so good. Hey, Jess, I'm going to touch on the scoreboard moment now for a second, which is the Kodak moment style, where it's an image or something in your life where you're like, I remember that clearly, and that's changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah. I remember my very first boxing experience. Not a Taekwondo one, which is shocking, but my very first boxing week was the coolest and most exciting week of my life, in the sense that that I can remember going, this is what it's about, having fun and learning, because I'd focused on the Olympics, and I've gone into boxing with no expectation. Like, I genuinely, with why I started Taekwondo, I did not think I'd make a good boxer, but it was a space where nobody knew me. I could just be myself, start this new journey. And it was hitting the mitts and Shara having a laugh at me because she was like, you look silly. But I was having so much fun. And that would be, it's not a championship or a medal or anything like that. It was just a moment where I went, I'm myself.
Yeah, yourself. You're expressing who you are.
Yeah.
And win, lose, or draw, this is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
and touching on sport and keeping on the sport trend, your favourite all-time sporting moment?
Favorite all-time sporting moment is actually a recent one. I had a different one before I witnessed this and watched this. I love the UFC, and I think there's been a lot of people who filter through the UFC, but there's finally someone in there now that's portraying this amazing image for Aussies, and that's Volk. And he said something at the end when he lifted up his belt, and he said to everybody, adversity is a privilege.
Yeah,
and
wow.
That's
awesome.
I was like, he lifted that belt after losing, having not even 12 weeks to prepare for a fight. It was something ridiculous, short turnaround, lost, he was coming in as the underdog with, kind of zero expectation on him, on, the result. But everyone backed him, and he used his adversity to come into that fight and it was powerful. It was exciting. It was good to watch, and it kind of, you know, it was an awesome moment, and it was gave me goosebumps watching it. So
And even talking about it now,
yeah,
Jess, I've got one final question for you. We're not far from you being 14 or 15 again, maybe 10 or so years ago, but life has changed. The world is changing,
yeah.
and kids are specialising a lot earlier now in terms of trying to fulfil their goals and aspirations. What's some advice to a 14 or 15-year-old girl now in 2025 who was a bit like you,
Yeah.
loving the sport and enjoying it?
Yeah. I think my biggest advice would be don't forget who you are outside of sport. Create, your own person outside of sport. So make sure you maintain friendships, maintain, a space for yourself that isn't about your sport, which is really hard to do. We get so involved in it, but I wish I was told that when I was, 14, 15, that, sport is a huge part of your life, but you need to have people to talk to that maybe don't get it, or, that make you happy and that you can do random things with that are, not taekwondo or touch or whatever it is you're doing. So I think that's one of the biggest lesson learned for me.
Jess Borg, thank you so much for being on Scoreboard today. I really do appreciate taking your time. And as I said, this is a bit of a different episode because we sometimes do talk about the dream, etc. And normally sometimes there's an outcome. But in this instance, it's been a pleasure chatting to you about your life in sport, the dedication, the advice that you're giving to other people out there, and your still involvement with NEEXT, which I wish you all the best and looking forward to helping and sharing the progress.
No, thank you so much for having me and giving me that opportunity to chat about it. It's awesome.